Possession, hauntings, and temptations occur throughout the Bible, and among the most prominent of the exorcists is Jesus himself. Here are some of his most fleshed out encounters with demons and unclean spirits. Mark 1 and Luke 4 both tell the story of how when Jesus came to Galilee, he set himself up in the synagogue of the town of Capernaum. The passages relate that a man came forward to confront him. This man was possessed by what Mark refers to only as an unclean spirit. Luke calls it both a demon and a spirit. The demon asked Jesus, "What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." Jesus commanded the spirit to come out of the man and leave him be. In Mark, the demon cast down his mortal vessel and fled with a shriek. In Luke, the demon leaves silently. But both Gospels agree that the demon did the man no harm. This display of power over spirits only enhanced Jesus' reputation among the people, and the story quickly spread throughout Galilee.
Praise be the Lord.
One of the most elaborate stories of demonic possession and exorcism in the New Testament appears in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. In all three accounts, the story says that after taking a boat across a lake, Jesus found himself in a region that has been translated as the Gadarenes and the Gerasenes. Matthew describes the scene as two men possessed by demons emerging from a tomb. The spirits within them were so violent that they barred all from crossing. For the record, in Mark and Luke, there was only one man of the same path crossing incident.
What's your name?
Belial, spawn of Oriak's fifth night of Legion.
His fellow villagers tried to keep him in chains, but the demon broke the chains, carried the man into the tombs, and, in Mark, cut him on the stones. In Mark, when Jesus asked the demon its name, it replied, "Legion, for we are many." In Mark and Luke, the legions begged Jesus not to torture them, and in Luke, they expressed their fear of the eternal abyss. Matthew presents the demons as more contemptuous and defiant, but all the Gospels agree that when they spotted a nearby herd of pigs, the demons asked Jesus to let them possess the swine, and Jesus commanded them to go henceforth.
Out of him!
The possessed herd then stampeded into the lake and drowned. The incident so terrified the people that they asked Jesus to leave. He did, but in Mark and Luke, he left behind the cured man to spread word of the Lord's power. Another story of demonic possession described in Matthew, Mark, and Luke is the incident of the boy. In all three Gospels, after the Transfiguration, Jesus, Peter, James, and John went to reunite with the other disciples. They found them with a large, agitated crowd. There, a father begged Jesus to save his son. The boy was possessed by a demon that gave the child seizures, compelled him to scream and foam at the mouth, and forced him to walk into fire and water in an effort to kill him. In Mark, the most detailed of the three accounts, the demon is said to have tormented the boy since early childhood. Jesus had the boy brought before him, and lo and behold, he banished the spirit from the boy, never to return. In Mark, when the disciples asked why they had failed to banish the demon, Jesus replied, "This kind can come out only by prayer." He goes into greater detail in Matthew, adding that, "If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." The books of Matthew and Mark tell the story of a plight of a Canaanite woman who sought out Jesus and begged for help. The woman's daughter was possessed by a demon, though neither Mark nor Matthew gives much detail as to what the demon was doing to the girl. Basically, it's the Exorcist 2,000 years early. In Matthew, Jesus' disciples urge him to send the woman away, and Jesus told her, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." But the woman persisted. Jesus answered her second plea by telling her, "It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." In other words, the Gentiles were the dogs left at the feet of the Israelites. But the woman kept on, saying, "Yes, it is, Lord. Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." In other words, even the lowest is entitled to some measure of sustenance from the Lord. Hearing this, Jesus said, "Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted." When she returned home, she found her daughter healed. Greatest of all the demons and spirits that Jesus confronts in the Bible is, of course, the devil himself. But the confrontation isn't the epic clash you might expect. The 40-day temptation of Christ in the wilderness doesn't make it into John, but it does appear in the other three Gospels. Once again, however, they differ from Mark, which treats the temptation as an almost perfunctory moment described in 2 sentences.
Are you one of those preachers looking for something here in the desert that you can't find anywhere else?
Luke and Matthew both list the 3 temptations Satan put to Jesus, but in different order. To make bread from stone, cast himself from the highest point of the temple to prove his divinity, and to inherit power over all the kingdoms of the world if Jesus would worship Satan.
Now you can have what you want. Any country you want. All of them.
But the point of the story is that Jesus rejected Satan's temptations and affirmed faith in God. Satan then left him, and in Matthew, angels attended Jesus before he left the wilderness to return to civilization and begin his ministry.